All right, hi everyone. Welcome to my presentation. Thanks for tuning in. This is a presentation I'm going to give on Parent Night, all about number sense in first grade math. So I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet because I talk a lot on Parent Night and I want this to be something that they'll remember and not drown out. So this is number sense in first grade math. So the first thing to think about is, what is number sense? You might be wondering. And so this is a definition of number sense from Learning Disabilities Online, a group dedicated to research of learning disabilities and finding ways to support students with learning disabilities. And number sense is one of the things that they suggest promoting. Number sense refers to a child's fluidity and flexibility with numbers, the sense of what numbers mean, and an ability to perform mental mathematics and look at the real world and make comparisons. So essentially what number sense looks like in first grade is we are looking to manipulate numbers, to understand what order the numbers come in, to understand how numbers work with each other, what it means to add, what it means to subtract. And really understand the why behind what we're doing and not just memorize those facts. So number sense is not memorizing facts. A lot of parents really want to help out their children, and so they teach them facts. They teach them facts from memory, and that's all well and good, but they aren't really understanding what they're doing if they're just spitting back a fact. So saying, oh, 2 plus 2 equals 4 doesn't necessarily tell us what 2 plus 2 actually means. What are you doing with those numbers? What does that mean in a physical sense with objects? So number sense is not memorizing facts. It is understanding how numbers work. So it's understanding how those numbers come together, interact, and what is happening when we say things like 2 plus 2 or like 5 minus 3. What does that actually mean we are doing with those numbers, not just the memorization of those facts. So an example here of a student showing number sense, when someone is asked, why is 5 plus 6 equal to 11? What is the reason? How do you know? There might be some different ways that they respond that show us that they have a number sense of how those numbers are interacting. You might say, oh, addition means I need to put numbers together. I understand what that concept of addition means. When I put 5 yellow counters and 6 red counters together, I can count up, and they'll count them all up, a total of 11 counters. So understanding what that 5 plus 6 means in a physical sort of sense. They might also say, oh, I know that I need more of something when I see that plus sign. I know that that plus sign, that adding, that means that I need more. When I count up, when I use that strategy, I count up 6 more than 5, I reach the number 11. So they're using that counting on strategy, but they're understanding why they need to use that. They're explaining that. And then one more complex example here. This child said, I know 5 plus 5 equals 10. That's a fact that I have memorized. And that's okay. I can memorize some of my facts as long as I also understand what they mean. So I know 5 plus 5 equals 10. And I know that 6 is 1 more than 5. So the fact 5 plus 6 must equal 1 more than 10. Because I'm bringing 1 more into that problem, the answer must be 1 more. And so that's a little more complex understanding of number sense in that case. In contrast to this, when a student who relies on memorization is asked, why is 5 plus 6 equal 11? They might just say, I don't know. I don't know why that's true. I just know 5 plus 6 equals 11. What I hear a lot is, because that's what it equals. Well, 5 plus 6 equals 11 because that's what it equals. That's not really telling us why. That's not really telling us they understand what is happening when you add 5 and 6. And then another one that sounds good, but doesn't really tell us much, is they might say 5 and 6 make 11. Well, that's true, but you're just saying 5 plus 6 equals 11 a different way. you're not actually showing us that you know that when you bring the numbers 5 and 6 together, that gets us a total of 11 of an object. So answers like these, not quite as much thinking going on, not really conceptually understanding what is happening when we add. And that's what happens when we rely solely on that memorization piece. So you might be wondering, why is number sense important? There is a lot of research behind number sense and why it is important to teaching our young kids what number sense is and how to reason with numbers. In one study here by Eddie Gray and David Tall, they surveyed students ages 7 to 13, and they found that students were higher achieving in math when they interacted with the numbers flexibly and conceptually. So that's using that number sense. Students who scored lower seemed to believe their role in math was to recall methods from memory, even when this was difficult to do. So even when they had trouble recalling maybe those facts or those strategies they were supposed to use, they were like, oh, I need to memorize this. I need to have this memorized in my brain. Instead of understanding how numbers work and working through a problem and working with the numbers, they tried to bring something out of their memory, and that's much, much harder to do than when we develop those skills of number sense and we understand how numbers work together. Another study here by Nancy Jordan, Joseph Gleding, and Shantea Remanini found that students' number sense ability at the end of first grade and third grade was often a predictor of their success in higher level mathematics later in life. So that means that what we see at the end of first grade, what we see at the end of third grade, that can start to show us the pattern in students' number sense abilities. And it shows us how they might perform later in life in those higher math classes. It can already be an indicator. Difficulties in number sense are often an underlying problem and most students struggle with math. So if we're able to see that at the beginning of first grade and we're able to pinpoint that now and really work on that, then we're able to kind of close that gap a bit and we're able to bring their understanding of number sense up and help them succeed more in those later grades and those higher mathematics levels and really help them succeed there. So you're probably wondering, how do we develop number sense? What do we do to develop it? Research has found 7 effective ways of building number sense. And I have 3 core ideas listed here. If you want the full research, there's a link there that will be sent out in this presentation in the link. First, working with concrete materials and familiar ideas. This means using things like counters, like cubes, like blocks, like dice, moving them around and using them to represent a problem, to show what is happening in addition or subtraction. And using familiar ideas. Maybe you are at dinner and you say, all right, you have 3 plates right now. We have 4 people coming to dinner. You need some more plates. How many more plates do you need? That gets students to start to manipulate those numbers in their head and understand in a very natural way. Oh, I need 1 more plate. Oh, that kind of shows that 3 plus 1 is 4 in a way. So starting to get them to naturally use that number sense in daily life. Secondly, composing and decomposing different arrangements of a number. Composing and decomposing is essentially a form of addition and subtraction. When we're composing numbers, we're saying, okay, when the numbers 8 and 2 come together, when those numbers come together, what are we getting? What's our answer? When we're decomposing, we say, okay, maybe I have the number 13. How can I break that down into different parts? How many different ways can I break that into parts? So really understanding and being able to manipulate numbers in those ways is also beneficial to number sense. And finally, discussing discoveries and findings. When we talk about the math we are doing, when we discuss those with each other, we really build our understanding of what we are doing. And so on that note, one strategy that I really love using in the classroom is really beneficial to use at home, something you can use as well, is math talks. And so I have 3 different types of math talks laid out here. First is the type called Which One Doesn't Belong. That's pictured over to the right here. That's one that I use a lot in our classroom. we'll use this for math talk time. And so off to the right here, there's 4 different dominoes, and students are given the job to identify which one of these doesn't belong. So you could come up with ideas for any one of these dominoes. Maybe you look at the bottom left-hand corner and you say, oh, that's the only domino that has a space without any dots on it. So that one doesn't belong because nothing else is like that. Maybe you look at the top left-hand corner and you say, oh, 4 and 4, that's the only one that has the same number of dots on both sides of the line. So that one doesn't belong because it's the only one like that. You could come up with all different reasons for any of these. Maybe the top right corner because it's the only one that all of those dots count up to a number that has 2 digits instead of 1. You could come up with all sorts of reasons. So that's on which one doesn't belong. You can go to wodb.ca for more of those. I use those in class as well, but that is a very easy resource to use. You can also just create your own. Draw some dots on a paper. Okay, which box here doesn't belong? Write 4 numbers down. Which one doesn't belong? Why do you think that? So that's a real easy one to do at home. Another one to do is mental math, and that's kind of similar to the one that we looked at the very beginning of this presentation, where students had to explain how they got that answer, how they knew that 5 plus 6 equaled 11. And so describing their process out loud, talking through it, doing it in their head, but talking while they're doing it is another way that you can promote their math talk. And then the other, I just have describe what you see. You can do that with a which one doesn't belong. You can do that with a picture, all sorts of ways you can do that. If I were to do it with this, which one doesn't belong over here, I might say, all right, here's a bunch of dominoes, describe what you see. And a student might say, well, I noticed that there's 2 parts to each of the dominoes. I noticed that there's 4 dominoes total. I noticed that there are different configurations. The way that the dots are grouped are different. But when it's the same number, it's the same kind of configuration. But when it's different numbers, they're in different spots. So those are the kinds of things we can do as math talks. I do have a post on my blog here about math talks that gives you some more resources. There's also a link here that takes you to a site explaining how to do a math talk. So if you want to follow that to understand a little bit more about how to facilitate a math talk with your child, there's some sample ones on there. That's a really great resource. Finally, if you're looking for just more on number sense, you really like what you saw, but you want more to get you started, I did create a blog that is all about number sense. It gives you different resources you can use, different online programs, different examples of activities that you can do with your child. So if you're looking for more to build your child's number sense, you can follow this QR code right to the left here. You can scan that with your phone. That will take you to the blog, and that will give you even more things that you can do to develop your child's number sense, all right? So again, this is just something that's really important to help our students develop that number sense, and that's something we're going to be focusing on all year in first grade, is developing that number sense rather than just memorizing things for math. So that's all about number sense in first grade.